Oh, yes, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Slam Talk Sports. It is a chilly, it is a brisk, it is a crisp Friday afternoon here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. It is 2:18 here on the East Coast, and it is time to talk about a little bit of sport, in particular Aussie rules football. Now, for the first time all season, we weren't treated to Thursday night football in the men's competition. No, we had two women's games. Yes, the AFLW, the W, was back in action last night as Carlton took down Collingwood to the tune of what was about 20-ish points in the end. And West Coast over in the Perth Nightcap defeated the Gold Coast Suns. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind not having men's action on a Thursday night. It's nice to break up the week a little bit. And in particular for me, it gave me even more time to bottle my Supercoach side. I've had all day to think about it. I can assure you I'm going to stuff it up. But yes, it was good to see the women back in action. The only thing I've got to say about the women's game is I'm not really understanding this footy bonanza, this footy festival thing. Because some of the women's games are going to have to go head-to-head with men's games, are they not? Or at least the build-up. So say a women's game starts at 11 o'clock, midday, 1 o'clock. There's going to be men's games that are starting within 45 minutes or an hour of the women's games. Now, I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news here, but in all likelihood, people are going to turn off or they're going to get in their car or get on public transport and get ready to watch the men's games. I don't want them competing. I want curtain raisers. I want the women playing before the men's games. Even if it's a shitty men's game, I'm going to go earlier, particularly if it's a game with a G, and I'm in the MCC. Sorry to just brandish my, white guilt card. I'm sorry, it's just true. You got to get there a couple of hours earlier to watch the game. So if you had a women's game out on the G, I mean, come on, I'm going to watch that shit. I'm going to watch the whole thing. Similar to Marvel, similar over in Adelaide, they've got nothing better to do. If you put a women's game on beforehand, I think it can grow the game. But that's just me. Now, I'm watching a replay right now of Collingwood and Carlton. This is good shit. You got Sabrina Frederick lining up for goal. She's an OG. She's a lifer. She was there since season 1 with the Brisbane Lions. I know my W, okay? I don't know it well, but I know a little bit. That would be my idea on how to grow the game better. Also, last night, we didn't just see good AFLW action. I may have turned off at around half-time because we had a huge game in the rugby last night. The Melbourne Storm took down those bloody Penrith Panthers. They grabbed the game from the jaws of their feet, really the jaws of Nathan Cleary. They snapped it shut and said, we don't allow this. We're going to go and score a big try in extra time. It's going to be our captain, our main man, well, considering Pappenhausen was injured and Jerome Hughes, it's going to be our main man for the night in Grant, who's going to steal victory, okay, with a little one step, a little two step, I'm going to go all the way to, not the end zone, I'm going to call it the try zone. Obviously, I'm not much of a rugby guy. I'm more of a Mark Robinson than a Buzz Rothfield, but I do know how to score points in this great game. Great to see. Great to see the Storm get a big victory to propel their hopes of finishing top 4. And you know me, when it comes to rugby, I don't know shit. I don't know anything about rugby league. I'm happy to be educated. But I know one thing. When Essendon season goes to shit and they're absolutely kaput and have no chance of playing finals or playing any meaningful game, AFL, VFL, AFLW, VFLW, when that's all done, I become a rugby guy. So go Storm, go. Okay? But enough about all that. Enough about the women's comp, which has just kicked off. Enough about rugby, which is in full swing. Let's talk about round 23 of AFL action. And there's the teams have landed. Oh, the teams are in. They've been in for 12 hours. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about Friday night's game. We go to Marvel Stadium. Now, Essendon taking on St. Kilda at Marvel Stadium. 7:20 start time here in Victoria. The line for tonight's game is a bit surprising to me. It is the Saints by 29.5 points. Now, I'd make a strong case that St. Kilda will smash Essendon. Look at Essendon's side in Kyle Langford, a nice in to get Langford back now. You played defence last week in the VFL. I think let's just get a couple of minutes back into those legs after missing so many games over the last few years with soft tissue injuries. But Kyle Langford does return. Also, Reece Unwin will debut for Essendon tonight. Now, the Cobden Flyer, as I'm now calling him, well, it's a bit interesting because a lot of people from Cobden, his hometown, also the hometown of Zach Merritt, Essendon's captain, were scheduled to come down tonight to celebrate Zach Merritt in his 250th game. Of course, what happens? Zach Merritt breaks his hand down in Geelong last Friday night and will not play in tonight's contest. So what do they do instead? We'll say, well, we're going to go to the big smoke anyway. We had 3 buses just loaded up, just lick it up with some great people from Cobden. We're going to go to the Marvel Stadium anyway and cheer on Reece Unwin on his debut game. I love that. I love the commitment. Great people from Cobden. Get right around Reece tonight in what should be not a big game, not a small game, but a medium-sized game. Also, coming in for the Bombers, Saad Al-Hawley. Now, Al-Hawley's been in and out of the team all year, it feels like. He's been one of the whipping boys over at Essendon. He hasn't been a coach's favourite, similar to others at Essendon, but it's good to see Al-Hawley back in the fold. He also got a 1-year contract about a month or so ago, so he's clearly part of Essendon's short-term planning. So to get him back in the side, I think, was crucial, particularly given how many injuries are on Essendon's list right now. Out goes Zach Merritt, as I mentioned, with a broken hand. Out goes Dylan Shield, who will serve a 1-game suspension for pushing Luaman Lual. I don't really get what happened there. I get the action's dangerous, but he pushed his teammate. He got suspended for it. Anyway, also out goes Archer May, who suffered an ankle injury in that game last Friday night. Ooh, they are battered and bruised down Essendon from that game at the Cattery. Also, we've got to talk about St. Kilda. Well, sorry, before I get to the Saints milestones tonight, Peter Wright's 150th game and Reece Unwin's debut game, as I mentioned. Let's go to the St. Kilda side of things. In for the Saints, Alex Dodson will play his debut game. A tall target who can play up forward and in the ruck. Also comes in Lance Collard and Toby Travalia. Out goes Hunter Clark, Max Heath and Liam Henry. Now, as I mentioned, the margin is 29.5 points. Judging by the talent on the two teams tonight, I think the Saints easily get that done. We don't necessarily think the Saints are a great team. They're a bottom 6 team. They just got past Richmond last week in what was a very, very dour contest where they didn't look to really take the game on, but knew they had enough in the tank to just win the contest. Now, Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller, the name on everyone's lips so far this season, especially for the last 2 months, he's such devastating and destructive form. He should have a game out tonight. Let's be serious. He should have an absolute game out. Essendon do not tag. The only worry, the only threat would be that man in Essendon's half forward line. It is Matthew Guelphy, named on the bench currently. He's done jobs in the past on halfback flankers. Do I think he'll go to Nazaya tonight? Well, if Nazaya lined up on the halfback line, potentially, but also Nazaya is much better, much quicker, much taller, and did I say much better? Yeah, he's much, much better at football than Matt Guelphy, so I can't see him restricting him too heavily tonight, particularly if Nazaya was to go into the midfield. Now, Nazaya only had 30% CBAs last week against Richmond, which was a big drop from previous weeks where he's going about 60 to 70%. But I do think that could be a return to those CBAs tonight. He's so destructive in the midfield role. And if a tag came his way, that's his easiest way to break it and just absolutely dominate in what is a porous Essendon midfield. I'm tipping the Saints tonight to win by 30 plus. And also Nazaya would be my best bet from tonight's game on the disposal side of things. He's $1.35 for 30 touches. I think that's decent value considering his recent form. Goals-wise, you can look at Jack Higgins, 2 goals. He's kicked 2 pretty much every week for the past 6-7 weeks, even in close games. He gets them done late in the fourth quarter. Now, his opponent tonight could be Jaden Newen, who kept Tyson Stengel goalless last week, but also Tyson Stengel kicked 3 behinds in the first quarter, as he usually does. And the week before that, Tom Papley had a couple of chances to kick set shots. He didn't always convert on them. He kicked 1 goal, mainly opposed to Jaden Newen. So that would be my big worry, is Jaden Newen might just be the ultimate clamp machine and stop Higgins from kicking 2 goals tonight. Otherwise, I don't mind Cooper Sharman. Now, Sharman is in good form. He's a tall marking target for the Saints, reasonably reliable in front of goal, and Essendon's defense has the propensity to absolutely give up in the fourth quarter, so I don't mind Shars to kick 2 tonight. Let's move on to the much better game, potentially the game of the year so far, over in Western Australia. We've got the Fremantle Dockers hosting the Brisbane Lions, and the margin is 4.5 points in, was it Fremantle's favour? Yes, in Fremantle's favour. This is such a great contest. 2 great midfielders going head-to-head, and what could be a season-defining encounter. In for the Fremantle Football Club, Corey Wagner. Out, Isaiah Dudley. In for Brisbane, Ryan Lester, returning from concussion. Brandon Starchevich, who was a late out last weekend. Sam Day returns from his multiple injuries. And in comes Luke Brecken for his first game. A debut game in such a big contest. That is gutsy. Out goes Tom Duday. Out goes Henry Smith, the 4-5 goal hero from a couple of weekends ago. Out goes Devon Robertson. And out goes William McLaughlin. It is Michael Frederick's 100th game. 4.5 points the margin, indicates that no one really knows what's going to happen in tonight's proceedings. Looking at the disposal side of things, looking at the Supercoach side of things, Luke Jackson in tremendous form, but really no ruck has had 25 or 20 disposals against Brisbane in recent times. They do a great job of restricting other rucks. Potentially that could be in part to Lachie Neale and his brilliant clearance work, but I don't think LJ is going to have a particularly strong game tonight on the disposal side of things, but he's such a great player that his impact could be felt in goals and scoring chains. Also, betting-wise, you see Corey Wagner come back into the team. We know the job he did earlier in the year on Nick Dacos, restricting him from his usual output, which led to Nick Dacos going forward, kicking a goal. Could kick a couple more goals in that game, the one that Collingwood won by about 25 points over in Perth early in the year. So that's why I'm probably going to stay away from Hugh McCluggage. We saw Hugh get tagged last week by James Jordan. Now, did that directly impact the result? I don't know, because Hugh wasn't tagged in the second half as closely. The tag changed to Will Ashcroft, as said on the broadcast, and to my eyes, during the second quarter, but I still would stay away from Hugh McCluggage props tonight, just due to the threat of a tag. I'm probably going to look at Dunkley and Jasper Fletcher. Dunkley, just because I know his role has increased. I know how much burden he's now placed on his shoulders to win the football, which wasn't necessarily the case with Lachie Neale and the team, with so much on the line, and the fact that George Hewitt and Patrick Cripps both put up 30-plus disposals against the Freo Dockers 2 weeks ago. I've got a lot of confidence in Dunkley having 24 touches tonight on the tab. Also, Jasper Fletcher. Fletcher's hit this mark, I think, in 6 straight games. Just with the injuries they've got at Brisbane, I think more responsibility goes to Jasper. He's a good kicker of the footy. He's a good decision maker. He gets high up at the contest. So often you see him as that extra midfielder or just a floating halfback flanker who they use as the first received player to get their offense going. I mean, Dane Zorko gets a lot of kick-ins. He's often the player they want to use when they get the ball moving fast from their back line. But Jasper Fletcher is one of the best players on the lines, at least in my opinion. So I think 19-plus touches is still a safe bet for him, considering how he's progressing in his career and the role currently. My tip for tonight, I'm going with Freo because of the injuries at Brisbane. You see no Lachie Neale, no Kai Lohman, obviously no Jack Payne, who did his patella tendon earlier in the season. They're a good team, Brisbane. They are a very good team, but I am worried with the injuries right now. We saw them really get a hold of Collingwood in the second half, but in reality, Collingwood are travelling so poorly that win doesn't hold the same weight it does to me a week ago. Fremantle had some bloody good victories over the last month or so, going to the MCG to beat Collingwood. I know I just said beating Collingwood doesn't mean the same thing anymore, but I do feel that Collingwood were in better form around that time. They got the job done. They got the job done in Adelaide last week, and it was a close contest. I've got a lot of confidence in the Dockers right now, and what is their biggest game in a number of years. Betting-wise, Dunkley, Fletcher. If you like Sarong, get on Sarong. Got a good record against the Brisbane Lions, but personally, I've been let down by Dockers players all year. Sarong's so taggable. Will he be tagged? Probably not. Brisbane don't tag. They use Dunkley as a run-with player to use defensively to match up at stoppages. He's a big body, but if you like Sarong, I'm not going to discourage you from getting on Sarong. He's just been one of the most least reliable players all year when it comes to gambling and Supercoach. Let's move on to the Saturday games. First game on Saturday is a huge one. It is the Expansion Cup. It is on the Gold Coast. I think it's 12:35 start time here on the East Coast. It is the Gold Coast Suns taking on the GWS Giants. The line I'm expecting to be very close as well in this game. They don't really know. It is 14.5 points, so they do expect the Suns to get the job done now. They met up earlier in the season with the Giants coming down from 5 goals to overrun the Gold Coast Suns at NG Stadium, and Lachie Whitfield was knocked out or concussed very early in that contest. Having said all that, let's talk about the ins and the outs of this one. In comes Sam Flanders for the Gold Coast, and in comes Alex Sexton. Geez, he is a Suns lifer. He's played half forward, he's played half back, and he potentially could be the sub or play off a half back line for Saturday afternoon's game. He is a very dynamic player, Sexton, but in a big game, they've thrown him the keys and said, we need you. We need your help to potentially clinch top 4 this season. Out goes Malcolm Rosas, though, and Bailey Humphrey. Boy, oh boy, the Bear, who's been such a revelation this year, playing on a half-forward line, kicking goals, really in great form at the moment, Bailey Humphrey. He goes out. On the GWS side of things, there is a big out, but at first there is a big in. It is Jacob Ware. Yes, where is Jacob? Well, we found him. He's back in the GWS team. But out goes Jake Stringer. Wow. Jakey boy has done another hamstring. I mean, realistically, that's Essendon's culture's fault. I mean, if any player gets injured, they used to play for Essendon or plays for Essendon, it's the culture. Hi, Jay Clark. Anyway, Jake Stringer is out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Will we see him again this season? I don't know. The Giants haven't made finals yet. If they win this game, they're going to play finals. If they lose this game, they're in big, big strife because then they don't control what happens from here. Most likely the Doggies will jump them into the top 8, and then they need to beat the Saints next weekend in the last round of the season, and results have to go their way. On a betting side of things, I only really like the Suns' prime midfielders in this one. Now, Noah Anderson had a very low possession game last week after being tagged by Cooper Lord. I expect him to rebound strongly. The Giants have not tagged in a number of weeks. Now, we know how good Toby Bedford was at tagging early in the year and last year. He hasn't done that. He's now playing as a more creative half forward. So Anderson should be a good bet for 25, 30, whatever odds you feel comfortable with. And Matt Rowell. Now, Matt Rowell has been the best midfielder in the competition probably for the last 10 weeks. He's just a clearance beast. Now he's getting more involved in scoring chains. I don't mind Matty Rowell for 25 plus touches as well. It's about $1.30 on the TAB. Besides that, I'm finding it hard to predict this game. I'm finding it hard to call who's going to get the touches and who's going to kick the goal. So I'm probably going to stay away. Just team-wise, we see Jesse Hogan still isn't back for the GWS Giants. He's had a foot issue. It's been recurring. So Toby Green could be elevated once again to a more prominent forward role and have to kick a big score in what is a season-defining encounter for his team. Let's move forward to Saturday afternoon footy. Now, I say Saturday afternoon. It is at 1:20. A lot of overlapping games this week. I mean, the AFL just doesn't want people to watch their product, I guess. It is Carlton taking on the Port Adelaide Football Club. Now, I didn't expect this. I did not see this coming. Sam Walsh is back for Carlton in a game the Blues are favoured by... what are they favoured by? I think they're favoured by about 13.5 points. The line is 13.5 points. Sam Walsh comes in. Now, he has missed a number of weeks. What was it? A knee injury for Sammy Walsh? Let me check that once more. Now, Walsh hasn't played for at least 5 weeks. I didn't think he would come back in, to be honest with you, just because Carlton aren't playing for a whole lot right now. The fact that they don't have their first round pick means, well, probably you can bring him back if you want to win a couple of games. They've got Essendon next week, so they're probably internally thinking to themselves, we can win 2 games here at the end of our season. Gives momentum going into 2026. But geez, with a valuable commodity like Sam Welch, who's recovered from a foot injury, I don't know if I'd be risking him. They have to be absolutely cherry ripe. He comes in, Will White goes out. On the Port Adelaide side of things, in comes Lachie Jones. Out goes Jack Lukosius, who just hasn't had a good run at it this year with injuries. He got injured early in the season, I think round 1 or 2, missed a whole block of games. He came back, kicked some nice goals against the Brisbane Lions, but it's really what he does. He just kicks goals, doesn't have much of an impact besides that. He goes out this week. This is a game Port Adelaide would love to win for their departing coach in Ken Hinkley, although I don't see it happening. Carlton showed a little bit more form against the Gold Coast Suns, particularly in that second half. I see them winning this game. They're close to full fitness in terms of their star prime movers. You don't have Charlie Curnow still in there, but you got Sam Walsh, you got Patrick Cripps, you got Jacob Weitering, you got Harry Mackay, and you have Tom De Koning. So they should be able to get the business done, particularly with the emergence of Cooper Lord, as you see him there, named starting on ball. He should tag Zach Butters after his great job on Noah Anderson last week. Betting-wise, the only one I don't mind is Kane Farrell. That's because Kane Farrell has hit 20-plus touches in his last 6 games. This is despite the fact that their captain, Connor Rosie, has been in and out of the team. First, it was a hand injury. Then it was an illness. I could see him playing midfield in this one, a more elevated on-ball role, as opposed to the halfback flank he's been on for the majority of the season, due to the fact that Butters, his output could be muted due to this tag. So I don't mind Kane Farrell for 20-plus disposals. Let's move on to the next game. I'm tipping Carlton, by the way. But let's move on to the next game. It is at the MCG. Saturday twilight footy at the MCG. Hawthorn taking on the Melbourne Football Club. The margin is 23.5 points. I'm pretty confident the Hawks get that done. They just dismantled Collingwood to the tune of 40 points on Thursday Night Football, and now they get a nice little break heading into this Saturday twilight game. Melbourne had a big emotional response after the sacking of Simon Goodwin last Sunday. They now have a 6-day break to go up against a Hawthorn team which is absolutely desperate to win this game and should do so by 4+ goals. Teams, there's no changes to Hawthorn's team, which was dominant last Thursday. Melbourne, well, they make 2 changes. Out goes Jed Adams and out goes Caleb Windsor. In comes Harry Sharp and the All-Australian defender in Stephen May. That should help them slightly, but I do think Hawthorn are a different proposition to the Dogs right now, particularly at the MCG. Hawks should win by 24+. I have made that one of my best line bets for the weekend. Disposal-wise, well, I don't mind Carl Killer Amon. I don't mind Jarman Impey. I don't mind James Sicily, and I don't mind Dylan Moore. The Hawks' prime movers should all get around the 20 disposal mark. Amon's value has dropped significantly because he's been so consistent in hitting that, so I don't mind gravitating towards Jarman Impey and James Sicily. Now, Dylan Moore isn't playing a high CBA role. He had more of a midfield role last week against Collingwood, but his CBAs did not increase. So if you want to go to Dylan Moore, that's fine. He's $1.36 though. He was $1.70 last week, so the value has diminished, even though his role has increased. Sicily, Impey, they play the same role pretty much every single week. They fly off a halfback flank. They're good users. They're good readers of the football. And they're particularly, the Hawks want to get the footy in their hands because of their decision-making skills. So if I had to pick 2 out of all those, I'd be picking Jarman Impey and James Sicily. Let's move forward to the next game. It is Saturday night footy, and it is a massive contest at the Adelaide Oval. Collingwood head over to South Australia to potentially save their season against the league-leading, the cromulent experts that are the Adelaide Crows. These are your ins and your outs. In for Adelaide, Brodie Smith, Taylor Walker, Harry Schonberg, who hasn't been seen in years, and Lachlan Murphy. Out, Rory Laird, Chris Burgess, Chase Jones, and Luke Pedlar. On the Collingwood side of things, in comes Will Parker. Wowee, bit of a selection surprise there. In comes Bo McCreary, and in comes Ed Allen. Out goes Tom Mitchell, Jeremy Howe, and Will Hoskin-Elliott. Surprising to see Will Parker back in the fold, that crafty sort of half-forward flanker player. Didn't think he'd be picked in such a big game, but obviously Collingwood looking for a little bit of leg speed and some youth after their old man's brigade was exposed against the Hawks last Thursday. That's why Tom Mitchell has come out of the team, and Will Hoskin-Elliott has also been omitted. Obviously, Jeremy Howe was a concussion-forced absence, but it is a much younger Collingwood side you'll see on Saturday night. When I say much younger, you've still got 2 40-year-olds in Pendlebury and Sidebottom kicking around. On Adelaide, interesting team changes. Rory Laird is suspended, obviously. Brodie Smith is a like-for-like replacement. Chris Burgess didn't do much over in Perth, so Taylor Walker is the obvious inclusion. Chase Jones, who was the sub, I think, last week, correct me if I'm wrong, he's playing off a half-back line, so he's probably replaced by Harry Schonberg, who hasn't really played a lot of footy this season. And Luke Pedlar, who can play like a forward pocket, a half-forward role, has been replaced directly by Lachlan Murphy. The margin for Saturday night is, I reckon it's about 12, and the Adelaide Crows are favoured by about 12. Margin is 14.5. Do you realistically see Collingwood winning this game? Their record against Adelaide is incredible. I think they've won their last 7 or 8, and all the games have been less than 10 points. They beat them at the MCG earlier this year, a game where Isaac Rankin missed a lot of opportunities. The Pies dominated in the wet. This should be a dry game. Adelaide's built off their tall timber and their marking targets. It is 2 of the best defenses in the league, if not the 2 best. It is the 2 of the best teams in getting points off turnover. That's what Collingwood did so well at the start of the year. That's what Adelaide are doing at a high level now, as Collingwood slightly dipped. How do you separate them? Is it just the Adelaide Oval? Is it just the form that Adelaide are in? The Crows do not need to win this game. Collingwood need to win this game. Adelaide will probably still come top of the ladder, even with a loss, because they'll beat North Melbourne next Saturday. Collingwood lose this, and their top 4 chances are effectively gone. Crazy to think when they were 3 games clear only 5 weeks ago. I'm tipping the Crows in this one. And what should be a great tight encounter. Disposal side of things, I don't mind Dan Houston. Now, I haven't said that all year, but his role has changed. He's now being used as more of a first received player off Collingwood's half-back line. We see Josh Dacos going in the midfield a little bit more now, but they're trying to unlock Houston and his kicking skills. 15 disposals for Dan Houston is only $1.25, but it seems like an excellent bet, as does 15 disposals from Wayne Miller. Now, Wayne Miller, another one of the classy halfback users for the Adelaide defensive side. Rory Laird out of the team. That's a few kick-ins. That's a few first handball receives that'll go Wayne Miller's way. 15 touches, I think that is very achievable and what should be a big game for each team's backlines as they try and get an extra loose on the back of stoppages to try and control proceedings and get a little bit of their own game style and tempo into the contest. Adelaide will just win. Collingwood fans will be drowning in a pool of their own tears. Let's move forward to the next game. It is Sunday, early kickoff, early bounce, early start time, whatever you want to call it. It is North Melbourne hosting Richmond at Ninja Stadium down in Tasmania, down in Hobart. Now, this is one of the last games, if not the last game, that North Melbourne are allowed in Tasmania. I mean, next time they try and go down there, they don't have passports. I just think their IDs and their flight tickets, is that what you call them these days? Boarding pass. Wow, I'm smart. Once they present the boarding pass to go to Tasmania, they'll say, no, thank you. Unless your name is, Seth Campbell, you're not allowed in the state because Richmond will now be the official team of Tasmania, whatever they want to call it, because they've got a lot of Tasmanians. Seems a bit wrong to me. Seems a bit unfair on North Melbourne, who have supported Tassie for years. They've brought games down there. Shit quality games, I must say. But hey, it was only a couple of years ago they saw Nick Larkey kick 9 goals in a dead rubber. That's not enough to welcome this team back for the next 10 years. I don't get it. Anyway, ins and the outs for North Melbourne and Tasmania. In comes Paul Curtis. In comes Jai Simpkin. In comes Taylor Goad. In comes Will Phillips. And in comes Matt Whitlock in what is an extended squad. Out goes Riley Hardiman. And out goes Bryn Teakle. Luke Traynor, Josh Gibkiss, and Jacob Kozitsky enter Richmond's extended squad for this Sunday early kickoff game. 1:10, I'm pretty sure it's 1:10. Anyone knows we've had a couple of 1:40 start times the last few weeks? What's the deal with that? Someone explain what's the deal with that? Because there's no women's game starting earlier. So just because you want to start earlier, or start later, sorry. Anyway, anyone explain that to me? It'd be great. Laurie Kane, you know my number. Who's going to win this game? I think, based on just current results on how they're tracking, I'm going to say Richmond. Richmond are the better team. I know North's pretty much fully fit, but this year has been a disaster for North. It has. You've got 3 wins. Everyone's saying North need to be knocking on the door of the 8. Look at your list. Look at the talent. Luke Davies-Uniacke, shithouse year. Harry Sheasel, okay year. Not his usual heights. George Wardlaw, is this guy a bust? Let's be serious. Is he a bust? Top 5 draft pick. I'm yet to see him have a consistent 4 to 6 weeks of footy. He just hasn't. He has games, he has patches, but he was playing VFL a couple of weeks ago when he was healthy. I know he had a concussion issue, but he was playing VFL when North are so desperate to win games. So I'm not convinced that Wardlaw is having a great year at all, let alone going to have a great career. I need to see it first. Larkey, he's out. He's on his knee. He's injured again. He wasn't having a great year either. There's not a lot of players that are having great seasons for North Melbourne. And when you consider the list profile, how they should be developing, I'm disheartened by what I've seen this year. If they win this game, that's great. It gives you something into next year. But if you lose this, you've won 3 games. Has there been progress? I don't think so. And the worst part is Richmond own your draft pick. So it's a double loss. You lose the game, you lost your draft pick, Richmond end up having a better draft pick by virtue of beating you. There's a lot of stake for North Melbourne. You have to win this game. You have to sweep Richmond this year, or the Vultures will be out. Myself and Kane Corns will be licking their beaks to discuss the fallout from this one. Betting-wise, who do you trust in this game? No one really. There really isn't anyone. I think Colby McKercher should have a pretty strong game. He's been a shining light for North Melbourne this year, playing off a halfback flank since they moved him there in the game against West Coast over in rural Western Australia a couple of months ago. He's been dynamic. He's been kicking goals from the halfback line, so sure-footed. I like his game. Besides McKerch, there's no one else I'm really keen to put my hard-earned on. we know who has to step up in this game. It has to be Tristan Sherry. He's got a great record against Richmond. He had 150 Supercoach points against Nank a couple of months ago when they beat them at the MCG. If he doesn't stand up, there's no chance to win this game. Sherry, baby, please deliver for North Melbourne and my Supercoach team. Let's look at the 3:15 game over in Sydney. Oh yes, the city of sin gets a big game as the Swannies host the Geelong Football Club. Sunday squad, of course, but in comes Will Hayward, Peter Laddams, William Green, Matt Roberts, and Corey Warner. Out goes Justin McInerney and Brodie Grundy, who unfortunately suffered a concussion, a delayed concussion at that, in the dying stages of their win last Saturday. Milestones, it is game 150 for Nick Blakey, game 100 for Lewis Melican, and it's a debut game for William Green. If he plays, don't know who that is, we'll discuss it if he actually plays. On the Geelong side of things, in comes Patrick Dangerfield, Jed Buse, and Jack Martin. I dare say Danger and Martin are locks to come in. They've looked so good, particularly Martin, since he's come to the side about a month ago. And Danger, well, he's just got to get in the reps right now. Does he play next week in what is against Richmond? Probably not. You probably give him what he can handle in this game, even if you have to sub him out or rest him in the last quarter. Hopefully result is in hand by then. But for Danger, it's just about getting into September and seeing what he can do in those contests. The line, I think, shifted significantly when Grundy was ruled out on Monday morning. Well, I'm looking at the early lines. I reckon it was probably about 12 points or so. Now, Geelong are favoured by 18.5 points. So not a significant change, even though in my opinion, the All-Australian ruckman in Brodie Grundy is not playing. I still think the Cats get it done. I don't think they're significantly challenged. I mean, it could be a close contest for 3 quarters, but I think in the end of the day, they will kick away, whether that's Cameron, whether that's Neil, whether that's Stengel. They'll find a way to put up a decent enough score. Betting-wise, I'm staying away from a lot of players in this game because you've got the tags. Okay, Sydney love to tag, Geelong loves to tag. So that makes me think the best prime movers from each team are probably stayaways. That's Errol Goulden and Isaac Heaney. Now, Oshin Mallon has done a great job, but mainly on pure ball winners. Now, Isaac Heaney can go forward. I think he would ruin Oshin Mallon if he took him to the goal square. Similar how Nat 5 said to Kane Corns, drag your frail, skinny, bony, old ass to the goal square, okay? Because I'm going to sit on your head. I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what he said. I think that's what Isaac Heaney would say to Oshin Mallon if he lined up against him on Sunday afternoon. Errol Goulden, different proposition. He is a stilky outside player, usually relies on his foot skills to have a dynamic impact on the game. I could see him getting tagged by Oshin Mallon. And on the Geelong side of things, who could be tagged? Well, James Jordan has tagged pretty much 80% of the year this year. Braden Campbell's also done a role on half forwards. I could see Max Holmes most likely tagged by James Jordan, which is a bit of a disaster matchup for super coaches out there, for considering Holmesy has been so good this season. I think that's the obvious move because he's the one that can take the game away from Sydney. Could Bailey Smith be tagged? I don't think he's been tagged in a game since the second half of the West Coast game earlier this year when he had about 17, 18 touches in the first quarter. People just don't really tag Bailey Smith due to his low efficiency. High numbers, low efficiency. I think it's a medium to high impact because he gets so much of the footy. But I do think Max Holmes is the one you'd want to tag out of the two of them. Brian Myers potentially could get tagged by Braden Campbell, but I haven't seen that happen all year, so I'm not trying to forecast it on this one. Cats should get the job done. Betting-wise, I don't mind Mills and Blakey. The Cats have given up disposals to halfbacks. Not huge numbers, but I think it's more likely that Mills and Blakey have 20-plus touches than it is Heaney and Goulden have 25. So I think the odds and the value resides with their halfback flankers. Let's move on to the final game of the round. It is the Western Bulldogs hosting the West Coast Eagles at Marvel Stadium. Ins and outs. Extended squad: Sam Davidson, Jordan Croft, Cooper Hines, Arthur Jones, and Lachlan Smith enter Doggies' extended squad. Out goes Lathan Vandermeer and Caleb Poulter. It is the debut game for Jordan Croft that has been announced and that has been confirmed. On the West Coast side of things, in comes Noah Long, Jaden Hunt, Bailey J. Williams, Jack Williams, Malachi Champion, and Jacob Newton. Jacob Newton has been confirmed for his debut game. Out goes Liam Duggan, their captain. Well, they've got two co-captains. They've got Oscar Allen and Liam Duggan, and they're both out. Also out goes Tom Gross and Archer Reid. Before I get into the ins and the outs, well, I just did that. Before I get into the teams specifically and betting, can I just say who is out for West Coast? Out, Oscar Allen. Out, Liam Duggan. Out, All-Australian and Jake Waterman. Out, club champion in Jeremy McGovern, who has retired. Out, number 1 draft pick and all-around freak in Harley Reid. They are missing so many players, and they were already a pretty ordinary team. They will not get anywhere near the Doggies. The margin, I think, is 70 points. Will it get to 70? Most likely. The Dogs do terrible, wicked, bad things to bad teams, so this one really should blow out, but the Doggies don't need the percentage. Their percentage is already good enough. All the Dogs need to do is win this week and win next week against Freo, and they play finals. I think they just get the job done. Like, whether that's 60 points, whether that's 100 points, they will get the job done. It shouldn't be a very entertaining game unless you play Supercoach, and in which case, it is going to be must-watch footy. We've got Sam Darcy, we've got Tim English, we've got Ed Richards, we've got Marcus Bontempelli, we've got Tom Liberatore, and we have Bailey Dale, all highly owned and potentially put up monster numbers in this contest. It will be a must-watch for all the super coaches out there. Anyone else, it is a must turn off because it should just be an absolutely disgusting game of footy over at Marvel Stadium. Now, I want to mention Jordan Croft's debut. He's a father-son, the son of Matthew Croft, the former ruckman from the Doggies. Where do you reckon he lines up, the Doggies fans out there? Is he going to just slot back to the half-back line at some point? Is he going to play on a wing? Is he going to be a third tall forward? You've already got Norton down there, and you've also got Sam Darcy. And I think you're going to see English and Bont rest there at times as well. So is Crofty going to play 50% ruck, 50% forward? Is he going to play 60% forward, 40% bench? I'm not so sure right now, but it could impact the performance of Tim English in this contest. That's it. Betting-wise, any bets you want to have on this game? I looked at the odds. They're all toast. They're all so bad. If you think Bont's going to kick 4 goals, you do that. You get your crystal ball out, put your tinfoil hat on and say, Bont's kicking 4 goals. Otherwise, I can't tell you the touches, the disposals, because the odds are all so terrible, and the Doggies may have an eye towards next Sunday in what is their biggest game in a couple of years. That's it for the Round 23 preview. That's it for the Friday show. I'll be back next week to talk about a huge Round 24 of AFL action and to recap a little bit of Premier League action. Yes, I've got my Liverpool top on here. You know, I am a die-in-the-wool Reds nuffy. We've done some great business this off-season. I think we've spent all that Bitcoin money, all that Coutinho money, all that Ripple money, all that OnlyFans money. I don't know where it all came from, but we are rich again. Florian Wirtz, Isaac potentially, Etekite, Frimpong, Kirkes, you name it, we got them. Okay, Liverpool, I'm not going to say we're back because we won the title last year, guys. We've been back for some time. But we're looking very, very good for this upcoming season. Can't wait to watch it all on Stan Sport. Optus, you're finished. You were the worst streaming service ever. You couldn't even broadcast the World Cup. And how do you respond? What's your response? To say, oh, we stuffed it up. Oh, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to lose the rights to Stan Sport because we're incompetent, okay? Football, or soccer as they call it, is absolutely back. I can't wait to watch it tomorrow morning as Liverpool take on Bournemouth. But until then, enjoy what is a big weekend of sport. Hopefully, you do very well in all your Supercoach leagues. Unless you're playing me, hopefully we get a couple of bets up. I'll be posting on Slam Talk Sports later this afternoon and on my Twitter, Darcy_Duncan21. But until then, enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. Watch the sports. Love your family. Love your footy. And enjoy it all. I'll see you next.